And to top off this tomfoolery, Trump floated Florida Congressman Byron Donalds as a potential vice presidential pick. That guy, the one black guy that Republicans love to roll out as fake proof that black people, the blacks, are just MAGA.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering. America, welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. I hope you guys had a great Memorial Day weekend. We certainly did around the household here. It's the start of summer, which usually means more barbecues, more family fun, and at least in my neighborhood, a lot more fireworks. We've been hearing them going off all weekend. It means 4th of July is coming real soon, but they got an early jump in my neck of the woods. But those fireworks pale in comparison to what we've been seeing in the liberal media. Heads have been exploding after Donald Trump's Bronx rally because of what it signifies or what the optics show. They've been freaking out over all things Trump and the Bronx, especially MS-DNC's Joy Reid, who has pulled a Joe Biden in a way, claiming that you ain't black if you're supporting Donald Trump, taking a special aim at Congressman Byron Donalds. We're going to break it down and show you all the buffoonery from Joy Reid, but before we do, please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows, and if you like what you see in here in this or any other video on the channel, you guys know what to do. That's right, you're going to smash that thumbs up button, like, comment, share the show with your friends, all that really, really good stuff, because all that all feeds the YouTube algorithm.
Feed me, Seymour.
Thank you guys so much for all that you do to help grow the channel, and man, have you been smashing that goal lately. We're on the road to 2,000 subscribers, and we're going to reach that way before the 1-year anniversary of This Week in DUMBmocracy. So thank you guys for all that you're doing. We're a little more than 50 away. Keep it going. And for all you newbies out there, be one of those 50 and subscribe to the channel. I hope this video earns that subscription as we talk about Joy Reid's reaction to Donald Trump's rally in the Bronx. From what we've seen from Joy Reid in the past, especially on this channel, and by the way, those videos are going to be featured in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. You can check those out right after this video. We've seen Joy Reid play the race card when it comes to politics. Everything she examines and observes goes through the lens of race. She likes to play that card right from the bottom of the deck all the time. So when she starts this criticism of Donald Trump's rallies in the Bronx, she does the normal liberal thing, goes after the crowd size, says it's much smaller than what they're claiming it is to be. We've seen that from the inauguration all through his other rallies. And then she starts questioning, were these people really from where they said that they were from? Were they really from the Bronx? Because Joy Reid, you may not know, she's from the South Bronx. She grew up part of her life there, and she knows people from the Bronx when she sees them.
This is a call for some good old-fashioned shoe leather reporting. Was anyone at this rally asked if they're actually from the Bronx? Because remember, the New York City borough of the Bronx boasts a majority of black, Latino, and blue voters. Yet that crowd, I'm just saying, it looked awfully white.
See, that's racist, man.
Too many white people for Joy Reid's liking. Luckily, there were boots on the ground, and there was another liberal network with boots on the ground. I'm talking about CNN, of course. Watch this interaction from Anderson Cooper's segment.
What was the crowd like, and what kind of response did he get?
Well, certainly a bigger crowd than I think Democrats would like to see, particularly given this is one of the bluest counties in the entire country. Now, one of the things that was interesting to me is that the Trump campaign said that they were going to micro-target to get people from the community to come to this rally. I wasn't sure what to expect. I've gone to a lot of these rallies across the country, and there are often people who travel hundreds of miles to see Donald Trump, and they're not necessarily part of the community. However, one of the things that I found was that there were a lot of people here that were actually from the Bronx.
So now that we've established that CNN sometimes does journalism and that Joy Reid's contention was completely out of line and not based in any fact whatsoever, let's see what other nuggets of wisdom she has in this freakout about Donald Trump's rally.
The strategy is to convince America that black and brown folks are the Americans who are really, really into Trump. But as Trump was lying on stage, this is what actual New Yorkers were saying on the ground.
Nobody who is authentically from the Bronx
is willing to co-sign hatred and xenophobia and misogyny and all of the things that this guy represents.
Let Donald Trump know that he is not welcome in the Bronx.
Do you think there's any people you know in the Bronx or friends that would consider voting for him?
No, I don't know anyone that consider voting for him.
Doesn't quite fit Trump's narrative, does it?
Well, let's talk about your narrative, Joy. See, if we go back to these people who are at the rally, let's just pick a random spot here. Look at the people in the background. Do you see the shirts that they're wearing? Do you see the hats that they're wearing? They are from a healthcare union, 1199 SEIU. Do you think they have an agenda? Do you think that maybe picking out union members to speak against Trump shows that MS-DNC has an agenda? Are these the authentic people from the Bronx? Because as the gentleman said, you're not really from the Bronx if you're supporting Donald Trump, pushing that same narrative that a certain presidential candidate turned president said during the Breakfast Club about 4 years ago or so.
Flashback.
Come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. End of flashback.
Are you picking up what I'm putting down here about Joy Reid's agenda? She's not talking about real people in the Bronx. She's talking about real leftists in the Bronx. And yes, there are quite a few of them. I don't think anybody is saying that Donald Trump is going to win the Bronx in 2024. That is a pretty steep hill to climb. It's one of the bluest counties in America. But that's not to say that there aren't Republicans and conservatives there as well. Also, Democrats who are willing to cross the line based upon past policies by other Democrats. You can certainly see those numbers climbing in Donald Trump's favor. We even saw CNN mention that in looking at the numbers from different battleground states and swing states. The Trump coalition is growing in diverse numbers.
Back in 2020, 84% of the Trump campaigns, the Trump coalition was white. Look where it is now. It's 78%. The non-white portion of the Trump coalition, it was 13% in 2020. Look at this now. It's 19%. So the Trump coalition is becoming more diverse.
Sorry, Joy, it looks like you're the one with the bad narrative here. There is a growing movement in minority populations for Donald Trump. We're seeing it in the numbers. It's translating right now, which makes it especially hateful for you to go after a fellow African-American politician like Republican Byron Donalds.
And to top off this tomfoolery, Trump floated Florida Congressman Byron Donalds as a potential vice presidential pick. Donalds, who backed Trump's lie that Biden authorized the feds to take him out, that guy, the one black guy that Republicans love to roll out as fake proof that black people, the blacks, are just MAGA.
That's racist!
That's disgusting, isn't it? To just say that about someone, to not talk about their credentials, not talk about their bona fides, not talk about what they believe in, what they think, to reduce him down to just his skin color and say he's being used by other people because they need some other black guy. I guess Tim Scott wasn't available that day, so they had to drag out Byron Donalds, right? How stupid and how reductive is Joy Reid here in this discussion? Byron Donalds has been a staunch Trump supporter. He has a mind of his own. He clearly has a brain. We've seen him in action in committees for different House judiciary matters and other committee hearings. The man's got a brain in his head. He's a dynamic speaker. He's very personable. He's an up-and-comer within the party because of who he is, not what he symbolizes. But to Joy Reid, just the black guy that they trot out on stage every now and then.
Which is so, I don't know, dehumanizing.
My godmother, my Jamaican godmother, lived in the Bronx. That is where I lived after college. You know, I'm an orphan, so after that I went and lived with my godmother. So I lived in the South Bronx. I know what the South Bronx is like. I know what the South Bronx people are like. That ain't it, what they were trying to show. They're trying to use this location and this little crowd, which they inflated, to try to make it look like it's black and brown people that are Donald Trump's base. Does it irritate you as much as it does me?
Oh, she's so irritated that they're using the South Bronx as their backdrop. They're just putting it in the background. It's not really the South Bronx, people from the South Bronx that are supporting Trump. After all, didn't you see all those union people? They're from the South Bronx. They would know. They're the real South Bronx. They're the real people there. Again, you're picking up what she's putting down here. She's making it like that you can't just be black and like Trump. You can't be from the Bronx and like Trump. You must be black and from the Bronx and like Democrats.
Now follow my orders.
Now again, it is true. The Bronx is certainly one of the bluest of the blue counties in the nation. But don't discount a motivated minority of people who would show up for Donald Trump in the Bronx. It's a sign that the numbers that other organizations are seeing are indeed true. But it can't be true because that would shatter Joy Reid's worldview that there's a shift in demographics and dynamics going on here since she lived in the South Bronx, 30 years ago? You think that's a little bit shocking to her that, oh my goodness, the South Bronx is no longer what I think it is and what I believe it to be? It could be changing a little bit. It could be changing a lot. The numbers will bear it out on election day, but my goodness, the pushing of the plantation narrative of the Democratic Party that everyone must think alike and look alike and be alike is absolutely disgusting. And now she's looking for affirmation from another guest host on the show here.
In the New York City area for almost 25 years and talk about pandering and lies. To quote Aretha Franklin, lies, lies, and more lies. I mean, he's in the South Bronx, but the BX is not there with him.
The BX is not there with him. Really? I can't stand race baiting people. In fact, let's make this the topic of the day to discuss here. What do you think about personalities on different news shows, different media shows, pushing racial narratives, basically race baiting and saying that all one people vote a certain way or all one people think a certain way or people from this area do this, that, and the third? I think it's ridiculous. I like to believe in individuals rather than groups. And that's what I'm going to stick to. I'm going to take you for who you are, not from where you came from or what your skin color is or anything like that. Joy Reid and this guest on the show, whoever he is, I think he's an author of a book or something like that. Yeah, I don't buy into their narratives at all.
Even anybody black, like Byron Donalds, who, by the way, is from Brooklyn. He's from East Flatbush, Brooklyn.
Shout out to Byron Donalds from being from Brooklyn. He's got a Brooklyn boy here as well. I'm from South Brooklyn, born and raised in Sheepshead Bay.
Do we have anyone else here in the house from Brooklyn?
Where you're from does not define who you are. And that's what Joy Reid is about to do here, saying, listen, Byron Donalds, he should know better. He's from Flatbush. Come on.
Like me. His family is Caribbean American like mine. He knows better than this. I grew up around the time of the Central Park Five. I know what Donald Trump is. That's why I never even watched The Apprentice. Anybody black that knows anything about Donald Trump thinks the way I do about him. That's why he got, 10% in New York or 20% when he ran here. New Yorkers don't like him.
And Byron Donalds, why isn't this brother in D.C. getting work done? Why isn't he in Florida in his actual district?
Go back to your district and you're not going to be Vice President, Byron. Same way he pretended they were going to make me speaker. He was on our show trying to convince us of that. They rubbed his head. Don't ever let people rub you in your head, Byron. That's my advice to you.
Clearly, there must be something wrong with Byron Donalds. They got in his head and they made him think all these things. Don't let that happen. If anybody here has a mind virus from politics, it's got to be Joy Reid. Listen, I can keep ranting about her delusions and her freak out here, all because Donald Trump had a rally that was successful in the Bronx. But I'd rather hear from Byron Donalds and see what he has to say about all this. So when we come back, we're going to hear from him. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. Over the weekend, Byron Donalds got his chance to respond to Joy Reid's hateful, reductive comments.
I find Joy's comments to be nothing more than crabs in a barrel. Just because I have a different viewpoint, different way of looking at the world, different politics, now all of a sudden I'm being used. You can make an argument that MSNBC is using her, but I'm going to move on. The rally in the Bronx was amazing. You had a very diverse crowd, people from the Bronx, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, black people, white people, all there supporting President Trump because they've seen the disaster that is New York City. They've seen the disaster that has come to the United States states of America because of the master of disaster, Joe Biden himself, and they want Donald Trump back. I heard what my colleague said in a previous segment. This is going to be a decision. It's going to be a decision for the American people between two presidents who did the better job. And it is without question Donald Trump was a significantly better president on every metric. That's why he has support in the Bronx. That's why when the president went to Minnesota, he had support in Minnesota. And there's more support in a lot of blue areas that is for President Trump coming back. So we're looking at expanding the political map, not shrinking it based upon race or anything else, because that's what Joy Reid and Joe Biden and the rest of them want to do. They want to shrink the political map based upon previous dogma and racial lines. That is not what President Trump's focus is. His focus is on all of America.
And that's the real reason why Joy Reid and everyone else on the left is scared to death about what happened in the Bronx. At the end of the day, politics is a numbers game, right? Whoever gets the most people to turn out to vote for them wins. And typically in national politics, in presidential politics, there aren't that many battlegrounds left. There are a certain number of battleground states, a certain number of battleground areas. But what happens to those calculations and the calculus of politics when we see real significant changes in trends from areas to ethnic groups and whatnot? You end up with this sort of freak out that you get from Joy Reid. She's the type of lunatic that I discuss in my book, Schnooks, Crooks, Liars, and Scoundrels, a field guide to identifying political buffoons, available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores. I almost messed it up there. The lunatic is sort of the bigger and better version of the hot mess. It's sort of the more far-gone version of what we've seen with emotional freakouts. This is an emotional freakout clearly from Joy Reid, but the segment is so long and she needs such affirmation of her views about race and politics that it went on for much, much longer than we saw here. So when we deal with the idea of the lunatic, we have the trigger and the hijack, right? We have the triggering event leads to the emotional hijacking. The trigger in this case is Donald Trump's effectiveness in portraying himself at this Bronx rally, as well as the increase in votes for him coming from minority populations, as seen in those battleground poll states that we've seen in previous videos. What you saw as a result of those triggers was that emotional hijack. How you ain't black, or you ain't really from the Bronx if you're supporting Donald Trump at this rally. And Byron Donalds is nothing but a token character in the Republican Party who's never going to get anywhere because he's just like me. He's from my type of family and my type of area. I know these people, and what you're seeing here is not real, and therefore I'm going to freak out on national freaking television. That's all this is from Joy Reid. This is a freak out, a hijack of emotion of epic proportions, because I think she's realizing that the typical race-baiting politics, the you ain't black comments from Joe Biden and whatnot, have woken people up to the point where they see that there is an alternative out there. Now, am I saying that Donald Trump is going to win the Bronx? I sincerely doubt it. But every vote taken away from him in the Bronx is like 2 votes for him in upstate New York or on Long Island. It's a way to help him change the calculus slightly in New York. Now, am I saying that Trump's going to win New York? It remains to be seen. I sincerely doubt it. But the fact that Donald Trump, as we've seen in polling, is doing so well in battlegrounds, he can afford to go to places like the Bronx or Minnesota and see if he can get a few votes here and a few votes there to maybe tip the calculus further in his favor there. That will cause the Biden administration and the Biden campaign to go to these areas that they would not normally go to and spend money and resources and time there. That's money, resources, and time that they're not spending in battlegrounds. It's a great political strategy by Donald Trump, and that's the real cause from the freak out from Joy Reid. It's not necessarily what it means as far as the appearance of the Bronx and what's really going on here. It's what it means for the nation and how people are viewing the Trump campaign and the momentum it has to go to places like the Bronx. What's going to end up happening here is Joe Biden's going to have to shore up some leaks in his dam and make sure that he spends money on that rather than spending money on battlegrounds, which just makes Donald Trump have more of an advantage. And for Joy Reid, that is the worst case scenario, because heaven forbid she be wrong about the growing support in minority communities for Donald Trump. But listen, hey, that's just my opinion about all this. I don't know what you guys think. Let's get into the comments together. And as always, like and share the show with your friends. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. We're on the road to 2,000 and it's getting shorter and shorter every day. And it's all because of you guys. Let's get into the comments together and discuss this video and all the other shenanigans and buffoonery happening every day this week in DUMBmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.